Okay, welcome back. We're gonna go ahead and go over go a little bit deeper into the ancestral lineage from her grandfather and her grandmother's side. Um, the grandmother who was indigenous to the Prado, Chino, and Chino Hills area, and her grandfather who was Cosino and Rumson from Carmel. So Rosie will go ahead and go into detail about that for the viewers to maybe kind of grasp a little bit idea of how they met, and again, all of this leads up to who she is. Who they were is now who she is and who she has become. So go ahead and Rosie and go into the Gabrielino part.
Okay, my grandfather, Guadalupe Rodriguez, used to, I guess coming from Carmel, his family, my great grandpa, but he used to hang around in Prado, and he knew my mother's side of family, my uncles and my uncle Pete and Jose and them all. He would drink with them, and that's how he met my grandmother, my grandfather. But my at that time there was my great grandma Guadalupe Garabay, and she lived there in Prado, and she owned land through all here. Even the acres she owned all that. My great grandma Guadalupe Garabay, and even the country golf course, all that. That was a Indian village right here at the country club. And my great grandma, at that time when she was alive, she owned all that. So when she passed away, lots of people showed up in there, hundreds. And so that was my grandma's mother, my great grandma. And then my grandma met my grandpa, and he used to hang there at the Prado area, and that's how he met. I don't know if he was born there, but all I know my grandma was. And they got married and had my mother and my aunties, and here I am because of my mother. And that's how it was. But then my daddy met my mother's family, and he got to know my mom, and that's how it is. But all through this area, it was the territory of my people.
And what happened to the village in Prado?
Well, as the companies started moving in and moving out our people out of there back then. Yes, when they built the dam, and they had to move out of there. A lot of my mother's people, and that was back in the late 30s or 40s. No, not the 40s. I don't think it was during the late 30s.
So do you think that when they built the dam, they knew that what they were doing at the same time was getting rid of
Natives,
indigenous
yes,
people from the area that would gather,
yes,
and also Mexican immigrants from Mexico and immigrants from other states,
yeah,
that they were pushing them out by building the dam. And
yes,
obviously now we know the Prado Dam is
uh-huh,
filled with water. It's real marshy. It's swampy.
uh-huh.
There's a lot of history that's under all
Oh
that
yeah,
water.
oh yeah, yeah. One of my cousin was born there. Her name was Chris, cousin Govea. Last name was at that time Aguilar. Uh, cousin, she changed to Govea. Um, what was her name? I keep forgetting her name. Ernestina, Ernestine Govea. But she married in Govea, but she was Aguilar Vega.
And these were
And her
Gabriel.
mother, yeah, her mother was my tia, my aunt Tia Shona. And we go and visit her. I take my mother over there to see her because my mom was up in age and she didn't know how to drive. So we would go over there to Corona because after that she no longer lived back there in the Prado area. She moved into the Corona town, the city, little city there on 6th Street. And that's where the whole family, they just, during those years, they got pushed out of that dam there. But that was their village there, all through there.
So during those years, the 70s, 80s, was there ever any mention again about like the native background, or was it just everybody just living, day to day just for survival?
Well, back then, I mean, they no longer lived in that little area there in Prado at the dam. They got back in the late 30s, I think that's when they got pushed out of there. And
Do you feel that when they got pushed out, they kind of left a little bit of
well,
their
mostly
ceremonial
yeah, but
songs and dances and stuff like that?
yeah, but mostly back then, when the government would show up in the areas where a lot of natives be, uh, they would, some of them would hide. And if they got cut up, they would say, well, we're Mexicans. No, they hide, Mexicans would hide with Indians. But at that time, then the government was gathering a lot of Indians, natives, and putting them in reservations. And some of our people, they had to hide. So that was more of a little hidden area there at that time. But they were already all through here. And this area was all their territory of our people.
In the Los Serranos and Prado
Yeah,
and Chino area.
Country Club was one village of our people.
Okay. So now that we've gone into, the great grandparents and the lineage and how they met, hopefully the viewers can kind of get an idea of how you can kind of notice as I ask these questions, there really isn't any mention yet of songs or dances or ceremony, because it appears that there's just a lot of, everybody's kind of disoriented, getting, moved from place to place, pushed out, kicked out, hiding. And obviously as the years went by, people of your age started to kind of really say, you know what, we should probably look into more of our native side. Around what year, or was it recently that you had just started getting into the Gabrielino, getting in contact with them, or they got in contact with you?
Well, that's on my mother's side. The ones in Corona, they start gathering over here in Prado. And that's because of one of my relatives. He's got them getting together and understanding. But before that, they all didn't keep hanging there anymore because, they got pushed out of there because of the dam they built and all that. So there was nothing no more. So, but now as they know that it's important for them to understand and keep their selves going, to not just forget their culture and their blood lineage. They keep getting together, and it keeps getting more more caring about more of each other. Back then they didn't have no other choice but just stay away from each other. I have a relative here in Chino Hills. His grandmother and my grandmother were sisters, and here I'm proud to know that. I'm very grateful and proud. And now that I get to see all my other relatives in Prado, that makes me more happy. I'm also happy to know on my grandpa's side, the Costanoan Rumsen Carmel tribe, I have a lot of relatives there. And that was because of my grandpa. But I go back, way back too, because of my great grandma on my mother's side. This is all on my mother's side.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and end this one for today. Thank you again, Rosie, for all the information and sharing what is in your heart and what's in your mind with us. So everybody stay tuned and we'll be back. Thank you.